Namaste everyone. On behalf of Bhogya Online, I'm very happy to welcome you all to our third webinar, the Swasti Shri webinars. And the topic for today is the Indian knowledge systems. I'm so happy that we have so many people joining us today in spite of being the holiday season. And now, our topic for the day is, like I said, it's the Indian knowledge systems. Now, India, which is Bharat, it has been a continuously living, thriving civilization for at least, maybe 10,000 years, if not longer. Now, its rise, progress, and survival as a civilization was made possible due to the constant quest or inquiry by the rishis or the scholars to understand the truth and therefore gain the knowledge towards truth. India was a leading society not only in the fields of culture or politics, but also in science, technology, and commerce. Today it is called the STEM or the STEAM. Now, the vast body of knowledge that enabled this crowning achievement was accumulated over so many millennia by so many rishis, and it is hidden in multiple different sources, many of which are no longer accessible to the current generation. Now, unearthing this vast ocean of knowledge and making it accessible will serve humanity in many ways, not the least by instilling a sense of pride and confidence that we can attain greatness without having to look elsewhere for the seeds of greatness. Now, to talk about this, we have very experienced speakers who have done a lot of research individually and along with many other scholars. And I would like to invite them and introduce them.
Namaste.
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 Namaste. So, introducing Dr. D.K. Hari and Dr. Mrs. Hema Hari, a husband and wife duo. Dr. Hari is a management professional, or should I say was a management professional, and Mrs. Hema Hari was an IT professional. They are both founders of Bharath Gyan. And how they founded Bharath Gyan is also a very interesting story, which I happened to hear from them. And they are doing a civilizational study. They had launched a civilizational study initiative to compile and present the knowledge of India, its traditions, its culture, its global ties, in short, its ethos from an Indian perspective. For a very long time, we have read about India not from an Indian perspective. And I think it's now very, very essential that we learn about our dear country from our own perspective. It's very important. Very interesting conversation as to what brought them to start such an initiative. I also happen to know that they had also lived in the Switzerland and in Germany, very close to Frankfurt, where I live. It's a very interesting story. One day we should all hear about it. So with a collective experience of more than 20 plus or maybe 30 plus years, they had traveled all over the world. And Dr. Hari hails from a traditional Indian family with roots in Kanchipuram. And Hema, she comes from Mysore, which is also rooted in culture. And they both got married into a very traditional family. So they had traveled extensively and to more than 30 countries, visited a lot of museums, expositions, and other attractions worldwide to understand those civilizations, their culture, and knowledge. To talk to us about why the Indian knowledge system. What exactly is the Indian knowledge system? Why is it relevant today? And why is it relevant to the expat Indians in Europe, not just in Europe, I think all over the world? Over to you, ma'am and sir.
Thank you, Mrs. Malati, for inviting us to be part of this Bhogya online program. It's a pleasure to meet so many new friends and a couple of old friends as well.
So, since Germany and Switzerland have been very special to us, we will start with greeting you all as Grüezi miteinander and Guten Tag, Damen und Herren. So, and just to complete that little bit of Malti Ji's story about how we started, Bharath Gyan as such was, kind of instituted as an idea in Wuppertal, very close to Düsseldorf, Köln in Germany. And so Germany and Switzerland will always be very special. And with that, we would like to get on with today's topic about Indian knowledge system and Indian civilizational studies, its relevance to, it's actually not just Indians. While we start with Indians and we give a Hindu perspective to the Indian civilization, which sadly has been missing from the global stage. It has more been a Western perspective of the Indian civilization. The Indians themselves, and that too, giving a Hindu perspective of all the traditions and practices and the knowledge system has unfortunately not been spoken about very widely. And that is what we're trying to bring to the fore. And it has relevance not just for Indians, but world over, because like Malti ji just said, it is a civilization, it's a continuing civilization from more than 8,000, 9,000 years old. And therefore, what is the secret to this continuity? How has the civilization been able to stay continuous? What are its practices? And you will see, as we talk and as, in subsequent talks as well, how the civilization did not just survive, it was flourishing. It was rich and it was flourishing. So what was the secret to this continuous prosperity? And that is important for the world at large to know, especially in days where we are all seeking sustainable solutions. As we know, we are muddled in a number of problems arising out of our unsustainable practices.
Just a point of request, those who have the bandwidth, if you can keep your cameras on, it will be nice, because otherwise we'll just be talking to a palette of names. So it will be much nicer. It will enthuse us a lot more to speak to some real faces if we can. Of course, it's all online, but still those who can, those whose various aspects permit, please do. Thank you so much. Going on to the subject. Thank you, sir. Thank you.
So we would like to just share our screen and bring about a few points and place them in front of you.
I hope all of you can see our screens. It's visible.
Yes. Okay. So what is the relevance of this civilization? Malti ji?
Yes.
I think some sounds, maybe you may have to mute.
Yeah, I'll do a global mute.
Yeah. See, this is something that we...
I think yours also got muted. Just a minute.
This is something that we see very commonly with Indian, especially youngsters. There is a sense of overall diffidence. And they enter into a room with people from multiple cultures, their confidence flies away, they feel inferiority complex, and they are more attracted by others' lifestyles and various other value systems. And there is a sense of not being able to talk about what their own roots are, what does their culture stand for, and so fundamentally a lack of self-confidence. is what one can commonly see amongst youth with Indian roots, whether they are in India or whether most of them are outside India as well. They are not able to stand up for themselves, their culture, their roots, especially in present day context where there is a lot of discussions going on media, social media. And if we largely look at it, this disconnect or this diffidence is coming because of their disconnect with their own roots, their understanding of their civilization, fundamentally peer pressure overall, because globally, the world is tending towards one standard global culture. Very sadly, because we are losing the diversity in the world, which is very essential for the world to sustain. And also, this civilization, the history of the civilization has been distorted. There is a cobweb of various myths in the minds of people in India and outside India about the civilization. So all this gives rise to a lack of awareness about one's own roots and oneself. And this grounding, lack of grounding, is perhaps what is leading to this lack of confidence too. So from this, where do we want to go? We want to go to a knowledgeable state where we can overcome all these disadvantages. And to do that, you have to understand the civilization in terms of its land. What did this advantage, what advantages did this land gain to therefore be sustainable, flourishing, and how did they manage all their resources? So if you've managed your resources well, that means you've had a knowledge of sciences as well, and you have put them to judicious applications. So what was that knowledge? What were those judicious practices? So all these various secrets is what we need to unlock today if you want to understand about this civilization.
This is precisely what we are doing in our various talks and courses, our books, our short films, all this. This is precisely what we have been doing, what she says. So we are not, while we are analyzing the issue, we are not bemoaning the issue. We are bringing out facts to counter and help the youth, the middle-aged, and also the elderly to utilize this knowledge in understanding themselves, their families, their values, their civilizations, and putting it forward across to their friends and families and people who are not of Indian origin as well.
See, because one thing, if you are sustainable, then you have had values. So it's important to understand what these values are. They're not just human values alone, but the values that you have held vis-a-vis everything around you. And very interestingly, this is a civilization which not only generated that prosperity, but has been celebrating that prosperity even to date. So like Malti ji just said, Shri is a beautiful word that denotes that kind of prosperity. And Shri is a very, very important word in this civilization. And it has a wealth of meaning behind this wealth.
Incidentally, we have written a book, we have written a 30-page booklet on the word Shri alone. It's available in our mini book section for those who want to read the meaning of the word Shri. Similarly, there's a full chapter in our book, Brand Bharat, on the word Swasti. So that is also available for all of you to read. Please go ahead.
So it's only then that we will see this larger picture of the civilization, and we will have the knowledge to be able to discern the destabilizing forces, because there are plenty today in the clash between the ideas of a global world tending towards one uniform culture, and that too around economy and exploitation of resources. So this is a kind of culture that the world is tending to. And that is giving rise to a lot of destabilizing ideas and all of that. And so what can we gain from the study of this civilization to be able to stand firm? And also, how can we gain some resourcefulness to think laterally? Because as we start digging deeper and deeper into the practices of the civilization, you will find that whatever that this Indian civilization, we use the word Hindu civilization and Indian civilization a little bit interchangeably, because largely this civilization, the word Hindu actually encompasses a whole lot of
geography as well, geography, ethos, not just from a religious perspective, but also from a geographical perspective.
And so from that perspective, we use these two words, interchangeably. And you will find that this Hindu civilization has practiced many things in a very lateral, very different manner. And it's a very lateral shift from what we think about many concepts today and how we practice lifestyle itself today. Now, I don't mean lifestyle as how we eat and sleep and live through the day, but how we practice industry, what are the ideas behind economy, polity, society. All of this, you find that there's a total shift between what we do today and what this civilization had been practicing for millennia successfully. So, and these ideas are important for people as they seek solutions in the present world today. So if you see, like he just said, it's more than just a religion, it's actually a continuum. And it's a continuum that spans across the geography, the history, the industry, the trade, because it's all of this. It's the geography that gave it its resources. It's the history that tells about all of this. It is the industry that gave rise to all that they could trade in, which gave them their prosperity.
When Hema says history, it's not limitedly understood as the medieval history that we are unfortunately taught in Indian schools. No. History is actually, it speaks about people, because it is not just that kings and kingdoms make history. They come briefly and go. Kings and kingdoms, if you look at an 8,000-year-long civilization, kings and kingdoms are very brief, 10, 20 years, 50 years, 30 years, like that. Whereas the civilization rolls along, irrespective whether there's a king or not, irrespective of the kingdom or not. So that is the larger perspective we should see the civilization in.
So how did they conduct their trade? What were the values, the value systems that helped them conduct their trade so successfully? And what were the skills? Because you cannot have trade without navigation to connect you with the other global civilizations. And how was the society organized? So all of this today, what we think of as religion are actually components that span across so many aspects of living. And therefore, how did we keep time? If you're living as a society, how did you keep time to do certain things in a particular manner? And therefore, how did you celebrate festivals? How did you learn about all this knowledge? How did you communicate within yourself with the outside other civilizations? And fundamentally, therefore, what is the ethos that threads all of them together? So this is what is the continuum, which is the what is known as Hinduism itself today, and therefore the Hindu civilization, aka the Indian civilization, as we look at it. And how do we know that? I mean, this is just one of the few things, the wow things that we wanted to bring out to you in today's very brief session. How do we know about all this?
So, for example, people normally say, oh, India does not have any historical records because it's all mythology. It's all only the later, only after the British came or of the Mughals came, we started having history. No. You know one thing, just as she said, one of the many points that we had in India traditionally, 8,000 years, we had 22 different varieties of historical record keeping. Can you believe it? We had 22 varieties of records of historical record keeping in this land. And they have come down to us till this century. Across centuries, across millennia, across the land, across generations, across languages. Like that, there are so many things. So when people say, oh, India did not keep record keeping, no, it's a myth. That means they don't know what they're talking about. So we're just highlighting one point. This obviously will be covering in our courses, about which we'll discuss a little later. So like that, there are varieties of ways we do. This is actually a wow factor from there on.
So a myriad different aspects in which you have to touch the civilization, look at these touch points and try to understand the civilization. That is when you will get a complete perspective of the secret to sustainability and prosperity.
Now she used the word myriad. You know that the word myriad actually has European Greek origins. It means the number 1,000. Okay, that's why it is M, because M also means 1,000 in Roman numerals. That's why you have the term myriad. And that was the highest number that was known as a name in Europe as recently as a few hundred years ago. Whereas in India, you had names for numbers, not just for 10 to the power of 3, which is myriad, 1,000, M. We had names, specific names for 10 to the power of 12, 10 to the power of 13, 10 to the power of 22, 10 to the power of 54, going on like that. Everything, for example, Shankar Nidhi, Padma Nidhi and all that, 10 to the power of 12, 10 to the power of 13, and all that we have. Adbhuta, each name, and all that we discuss in our different works, so that we can bring out wonderful aspects, but these are needed for understanding mathematics better, appreciating mathematics, but not just understanding, appreciating maths.
So a study of this civilization actually is a stepping stone to sustained success, because what it's going to help you is it's going to help with scaling up one's soft skills fundamentally, so that we can become more relevant for future. And because future is all about sustainability, there's no sustainability, there is no future for us. So how do we develop that mindset and the skills to bring in sustainability into everything that we do, and also to have the confidence, dare, direction and distinction? Because confidence that what you are thinking about comes from a proven route which has had this success, which has maintained this success, and therefore you can dare to adopt it, and you can take the direction from it, and you will be distinguished with the success that you will see when you try to bring in these kind of lateral ideas. Because it is this flourish that was the root for the search for India by the various colonial powers. In fact, all the colonial powers, if you see, colonization came about not by accident. Colonization came about through a purpose, and the purpose was to find India and no other land. Colonization of the world, India was the root for the colonization of the world.
The search was for India everywhere. They went to West, search for West Indies. They went to East, they went to Indonesia, everywhere. So it was India, West Indies, Red Indians, Indonesia, everywhere. Look at the East Indies. The world in the late 1400s was looking for India. Why were they looking? Why was Europe looking for India? That's the question. That's what we deal in one of our courses that we do. So that what prompted Europe in 1400s to look for India? Because Christopher Columbus, when he left, he did not know about the new world that was there. He went looking for India, and till the end of his life, he found India only, because he did not go to the mainland America. He went only up to West Indies.
Okay? So till the end of his life, he thought he was only in India.
He had reached India. So it was an India-centric world till as recently as 400 years ago for Europe.
So why were they looking? And therefore, like the song, which is there in Sound of Music, then again an Austria-based film, the Swiss Alp films, there is a song, we must have done something good. So nothing comes from nothing, and nothing ever can, right? So what was this something good that we had done to keep it lasting good for millennia? And that is what we need to understand today.
That's what we do in our courses in Bharath Gyan, in our books and films. That is what we bring out, all this, the good that we did.
And this is something that we need to understand for ourselves, because with every generation, we have to bring them back on the same page. Unfortunately, due to this colonization, a couple of generations before us, they were cut off from their roots, and they could not, because after the colonial powers left India, they were too busy trying to build back the civilization. So somehow this knowledge didn't get passed on sufficiently to us. So at least now, if we can try to understand, today we are a little comfortable and we have the time and wherewithal to be able to sit and focus on this aspect. So if we can collect back this knowledge, this appreciation, this understanding, and pass the baton on to generations below us, then that would really keep this knowledge and the idea going for generations to come. Because if you really see, as per reports world over, it is these kind of soft skills, the ability to think laterally, the ability to have a wider knowledge and appreciation of things, which is what is going to be needed. Because whatever is the core skill of your reading, math, arithmetic, everything can be taught in schools. But it is this kind of out of the box thinking and knowledge which is going to make anybody stand out and also contribute better to society with their ideas. So that is what is needed. And therefore, there is a lot of relevance to going through a study of this particular civilization. And fundamentally, we have been offering these ideas through our courses. And for instance, all the competency that that people need, they come from the traits, which come from character, which is a legacy that you inherit from your roots. And we do have a large legacy to leverage. And here we are trying to bridge this gap between the past and the future, the old and the young, ancient and modern, knowledge versus wisdom, and skill set versus mindset as well. So this is what is needed. And we've been doing a lot of courses presently with Hindu University of America, where we speak about these topics, especially bringing teens and parents together on a common platform to understand the civilization through a course called Exploring Hinduism, which looks at this as that continuum that we just showed you, and looking at the various contributions to the world in the realm of matter and also in the realm of mind.
It's not only important to bring in teens and parents together, but it's also equally important to bring in grandparents. Because what we see in most of the courses we do is there are grandparents and grandchildren coming who are staying across 2 continents, joining this course and getting to talk among themselves later. So this is creating a platform, because otherwise the points to talk between grandparents and grandchildren today is reducing. This helps people because the grandparents have information to say about the civilization. The grandchildren want to know, while the parents are busy with their professional careers and their professional lives. So grandchildren are eager to learn. So this is a connecting point, which is what our civilizations were doing earlier. And that is what we're missing out. So today in the online era, this is back possible once again, even when the grandchildren and grandparents are living across continents, eminently possible across time zones. So this brings them back both together. So that's the beauty of what we are trying to do. And here.
So the other course is about exploring the contributions that we have actually made to the world, which is why the colonial powers were seeking to come to India. So what were these contributions? And if you look at it, you can broadly divide them as those that have been in the realm of matter. So material contributions that we have made to the world, which has actually shaped the world to be the way it is today. So today, a lot of things that we do are unknowingly many things that we can trace the roots back to what our civilization has contributed. And also in the realm of mind. And again, to go deeper into this, we look at it as part A, where we speak about the actual contributions. There are 5 major contributions in the field of metallurgy, in the field of textiles, in the field of dyes, then in the field of sugar and spices. So there are fundamentally 5 major ones, just like you have the African Big Five.
African Safari, a Big Five like that. India has contributed to the economy of the world in the Big Five. Similarly, there have been game-changing aspects which have over the last millennia changed the way the world has progressed, thought and lived. So those are the game changers. This is something that we'll be offering starting January 15th. So that is something we're going to do. Then post that we'll be doing about Hindu contribution in the in the realm of mind. That will come a couple of quarters later. But what is coming up now in the next 2 weeks is this one, the game changer, that is Hindu contribution in the realm of matter, about which Mrs. Malti will speak to you about.
So here actually what we're going to look at is the secrets, like we told you. What is it that enabled this civilization to produce all these, like we call the big five, and to trade and to earn the prosperity? So what were the game-changing factors for this civilization? And what have been the game-changing factors for the world at large because of these contributions? And how did they change the world to be what it is? So this is what we're going to look at.
It was actually quite eye-opening in different ways for me because I grew up in Germany and India. I have two questions, one addressed to Dr. Hari and Dr. Hema Hari, and one addressed, of course, to us, the second speaker, Mr. Vijendra Munikoti. My first question is addressed to the two doctor speakers. There's a lot of, there's a lot of knowledge clearly throughout the millennia that we obviously have in our civilization, but throughout the years, and especially after the invasions, many of them have been kind of lost or scattered, as I repeatedly keep encountering. So when you give such courses, how do you wade through the authentic or the reliable sources of knowledge, and how do you discard the ones are biased or which deliberately seek to present our civilization in, let's say, not the best light or not in the most Indic-centric perspective?
What we have done in Bharath Gyan, we said, we are trying to bridge. So one, we have taken information from various sources. One are texts, authentic texts in traditional languages, Sanskrit and local languages. We have run them through scholars for their interpretations as well, match it with local traditions and practices, and also match it with what civilizational history shows us and how it confirms all these aspects. Now, you have a parallel discourse which traces the travel of the spy. If you read the Jesuit history, you will see how the knowledge of the spy has traveled all the way from India, especially Kerala schools, to Europe and then beyond. So all of this together gives you a very comprehensive view to understanding this particular knowledge base. The other thing is also the meaning. Like, for instance, your very word, your very name, Varsha, right? Now, we know Varsha is rain. But Varsha is also the word used for a year. Every year is Varsha, right? And Varsha is also the word, a suffix that is attached to a country, especially ours, like Bharat Varsha. So why do you have Varsha in so many different contexts? How do you tie them up? And that is where I'll show you something in this. Maltiji, I would like to share my screen. I will just show you first where our Bharath Gyan website is. So this is our Bharath Gyan website. I hope you can all see our screen. And here, if you go down, you have all the books that we have written. We have to date published about over 100 books, and we call them the Autobiography of India compilation. And we have various series like Brand Bharat, which talks about the things that have gone from here, breaking the myths and so on. I'll let you all browse through it at your leisure. And there is also this section, which is the film section. And you click on that, you get to playlists. Now, when you come to this playlist, for instance, just about your own name, Varsha, there is one playlist which is Bharat, that is India here. There are about, most of these are just under 3-minute short films. And there is one which talks about why does this land have two names? How did these names originate? The extent of this. All of these are being taken from the various scriptures. So here you have Varsha, Varsha, Varsha. Why does this land have 3 names? And we'll be happy to just play it for you for a few minutes.
It's just a 2-minute film.
Have you ever wondered why we call our land as Bharatavarsha? We call rain as Varsha. We call a year also as Varsha. What is the connect between these 3 Varsha?
In this whole world, after the Amazon forests, the one single landmass that gets the highest rainfall consistently year after year is Bharat Varsha, which is India. The onset of monsoon rains, Varsha, which came the same time every year, marked a year for the farmers in the agrarian society of Bharat. Hence, Varsha also came to denote the concept of a year.
Thus, we see a distinct connection between rain, year and land. Rain is Varsha, year is also Varsha. The land over which this rain Varsha rained prosperity year on year is also Bharat Varsha.
So, fundamental. I mean, there are a lot of these kind of films for you to watch.
We have over 400 such short films we made. You mention the name, we got a short film for it. So you can go and watch like this. So I'm sure you would like to show this, Ms. Varsha, to your family and all your friends that there's a film on your name.
The next one tells you why does it come every year. I mean, we don't want to take your time here, but please go and watch that as well. You would love that. See, the point I'm trying to stress here is this knowledge of this land, these words, the language, every word has a meaning, and that meaning is connected to a functioning or a characteristic, some trait of the land and the civilization. I mean, not just land, I mean the civilization, the people, their practices. And the words may look very disconnected initially, but then it is the underlying thread of thought. And that is that Sanatana Dharma, the thread of thought which weaves all of this together. And so when Krishna says that Chatur Varna in Bhagavad Gita, what is the Chatur Varna? Why was it practiced? Why was it introduced? What is the underlying ethos of segregating a society into 4 different categories, and how do they supplement and complement each other? That is what needs to be understood. It was not just for, classifying them as tiers, just as layers that he didn't bring in incidentally. It has been there even before him. He just mentions it over there. But of course, when he says also that he is much larger, so in that sense, I mean, so you have to take it in very many layers, but the fact, the need for this also has to be understood.
1 second here. The Chaturvarna that Krishna speaks about Bhagavad Gita is not caste system. Caste system was imposed by the colonial powers in 1870. Caste is a Portuguese word, casta. The Chaturvarna is a different concept that we have discussed in our book, Breaking the Myths About Society, that's available for all of you to read. 1/3 of the book deals only with the myth of caste system. It's there in our website. It's all of our books are called Autobiography of India, of which we have written 100+ volumes. One of the book is Breaking the Myths About Society. Breaking the Myths itself is 4 volumes. In that, 1 volume is about society. I think volume 2 or whatever it is. You can read all that. So every aspect you've dealt with. So if you're welcome to the course to see all these layers, it's like onion. You have to slowly peel each layer to understand the quality of Sanatana Dharma. That's what it is.
So you can't just take any sloka or any verse in any scripture on its own. It's all integrated and tied beautifully together. And together they give a very holistic picture.
That's what we need to understand. So they self-validate themselves. That's the beauty of it. We don't need an outside bibliographer to to validate it. That's very, again, a very colonial style. Okay. They should self-validate. That's the beauty of Indian knowledge. Okay. Can we go on to Miss Monica? She has her hand up, please.
Yes, thank you very much. I'm very thrilled to be here in this webinar. I'm the only European, an old colonist, but and I actually studied social anthropology, but not about India. I specialized on Japan. I was always told India is too complicated, but I'm so happy to I have already learned so much in this very first webinar here. And the thing, I like also your approach about the language and the words, because I have now started teaching languages. I started teaching Japanese at first. Now I also teach German. And this is basically also my approach, and why I appeal that studying languages is always very necessary. And when I had my first Indian lady starting to study German with me, for me it was very important to know which was her mother tongue. So I am very much interested in the various languages in India, and of course English is imposed through the colonial time. But for some regions, it's probably the only way to communicate with each other.
Yes. In fact, today, this will be interesting for you. I think some other Indians on this webinar today might be familiar. Today is a day, it's a festival day called Hanuman Jayanti in southern part of India. It is to celebrate birthday of Hanuman. And the color for Hanuman, his favorite color, the color associated with him is the color saffron, which is kesari. That is this kind of orange color. Mm-hmm. That is why we both are dressed in this orange color as well today. And
it's the color of the day.
We've made a very short film. It is on our YouTube channel. You could check it out.
It's available. It's called Kesari.
The reason I'm talking about this, Ms. Monica, is it shows a very beautiful language connect as to how the word kesari, which means saffron, which means king. Actually, it means king. And from there, it gets attributed to saffron, the king of spices, and how that goes forward. And
a book called Indo-Japan, a Connector Millennia. And since you mentioned about languages, there's also 4 films are made on Japan, India-Japan connection. If you go to the Bharath Gyan website, in the books, you'll find a book called Indo-Japan, a Connector Millennia. I'll just show it to you briefly, then you can browse through it later.
Oh, thank you very much. That's very, very interesting. I never suspected.
Yeah, because the connection between these two civilizations go back. So we'll just show you, if you go down. See, look at this. Can you see this image?
So this is there. You can have a look at it anytime.
Later.
Yes,
Yeah.
please.
So thank you very much. That's very, very interesting.
Incidentally, the German word Kaiser
comes from this kesari.
So the word kesari is Hindi?
Sanskrit.
It's Sanskrit. Okay. I need to get all those languages sorted.
You're welcome to our course. We'll deal with all these layers.
Yeah. Okay, thank you very much.
And the Roman word Caesar also comes from Kesari, because he is also king. So Caesar, Kaiser, all that comes from Kesari.
Okay.
It's there in the film for you to watch. It's also there in our book, Grand Bharat.
Yeah. Thank you very much.
Okay, Saroj Bala has an interesting question, which is any insight into what makes a happy and satisfying retirement years?
Okay.
Actually, if you just follow the Varnashrama, in Varnashram, it's not just caste, like we were saying. It is Varna, Jati, Ashrama. And in that ashrama lies the answer for satisfying not just retirement, but satisfying every phase of life.
That is what was killed during the colonial times.
So when everything got flattened as a single hierarchical, that to a vertical hierarchical caste system, all of these connotations of how a society should be organized, should function, so that everybody is satisfied at every stage of their life, be whatever they may be doing, that gets lost.
So what was horizontal was made vertical, actually. It was a horizontal system. The Varnashrama was horizontal. It was made vertical by the colonial powers. So that's what changed the whole thing. The perspective changed it.
Usha Srinivasan asks how to regain the knowledge available in all these literatures. Some were not even recorded, but only transferred orally for several reasons. We have only very few.
Transferred orally is only Veda. Because Veda alone was meant to be transferred orally and not written. All other, see, we told you 22 varieties of historical records, including Itihasa, Purana, Upanishads, Smriti, everything. All of them were recorded and written. Documentation is available. Only Shruti, which is Veda, because the word Shruti means to hear. Only Shruti is to be oral. And there's a method called Ashtavikriti through which they were transmitted. Okay, so so let's not mix Shruti with Smriti. Smriti is all the time written and noted down. And Shruti is alone remember. Okay? Listened.
Oral and oral.
Okay, so that's what we showed you in the chart. If those who want to go back to the chart, you can see it later. And it's there in our book. Breaking the Myths About Society has this full chapter on this point.
So there's one of the myths that everything in knowledge of India is just oral. It was not everything was oral. Only the Veda, for a specific purpose, they were oral. There was a very well-defined, well-developed writing system from many millennia ago. Writing system in terms of the script, the lipi, first and foremost, the language was well-developed, which is why it was called Sanskrit. Today we end up calling it Sanskrit, but Sanskrit it means that which is well developed, well refined. Sanskrit, Sam and Krit means to have been done, and Sam means well done.
A job well done is Sanskrit, but Sanskrit, as it's called in Europe and now also in India, means sans means without. So the sans, it's become without. What was originally called a job well done has become without, because by calling it sans.
Okay, so the language was well developed. This writing lipi script was quite well developed. There were various media in which it was written well. So everything existed at the same time. So there are layers and layers of such myths and mindset change we have to first get into. Then that will clear up the scene for us, and we will be able to go to the right kind of source of information that we want. We will know where to go to.
All this is there available in all the Bharath Gyan books, our films, our articles, videos and all that. And also when you interact with us in these courses, you'll get to them. So welcome. We're not marketing the courses for the sake of anything. It's just that we're saying that these are available for you in these mediums and formats to use. The whole plethora is available. The bouquet is available. And in the courses, we get to interact with you on each of these points. It's all very open courses where it's not that we come and give a lecture for 45 minutes and go away. No, it's a lot of interaction happens in our courses. So welcome for them, where we look at each layer. Okay, thank you, Mrs. Malti.
Thank you. There's a question from Sidhu. He says, sorry, this is not the correct platform, but nevertheless, he says, after he watched many videos, movies, including Mahabharata, but still asking some basic questions. How do you believe God is there? Did you see God? Who's the father of God and his father and so on? Did you see God? If I pray God, he will come. Please let's how we answer basic questions and what needs to follow. After watching several Indian videos, movies, I still not believe. Thank you so much.
Sidhu, thank you for asking this wonderful, basic, fundamental and pertinent question. The fundamental difference between Brahmic religion, there's Brahma, Brahmic religions, and the Abrahamic religions. Brahma, Abrahamic religions is that in all the Abrahamic thought, God is outside. Outside earth, outside creation, outside sun, outside the universe. He creates everything from outside. Where he is outside is a different question. That's a theological question. We're not getting into it. Whereas in all the Brahmic religions, be it Shaivam, Vaishnavam, Shaktam, Sikh, all Buddhism, Taoism, all of them put together, Jainism, all of them put together, the divinity resides within. He resides within the universe, he resides within the sun, he resides within the earth, he, she, there's no gender there. Both genders are there. Or all the genders, all the gender, or the rainbow of genders are there. All of that reside within each one, including within you. So you should see that God is within you. That's a fundamental factor. So don't look for him outside. Yes. So incidentally, on this aspect, we have made a film called Creation Srishti Vijnana. There are 30 films we have made on the subject. It's available as a separate playlist link in our Bharath Gyan website. Go and visit it. You can see the 30 films. There's also a book called Creation that we've written. It's available in our website for you to read. It's available. The book is written in multiple languages. Again, available. It's been written in English, Kannada, Tamil, few other like Hindi, other languages. You can check them all out. And this is a subject we deal for a couple of days in our course Exploring Hinduism. So again, welcome there for it. Wherein we can look at the layers. But to answer your vast question in 2 minutes, I think I've done it very briefly and fast. Okay, then it's all within, not without. It's not sans, but it is some within. That's a fundamental difference. So if you're looking outside, you're looking elsewhere. You need to look inside. Okay, thank you. Thank you, Sidhu, for asking this wonderful fundamental question. Thank you.
I also get questions. I mean, I also get a review saying that the session was very good.
We'd like to thank Mrs. Malti for really organizing this program so well and getting about all your friends in different parts of Europe together. It's nice. We look forward to interacting with all of you.
Dr. Hema Hari, Dr. D.K. Hari, for taking this, very meaningful time out from your very hectic schedules and being there with us today talking about the Indian knowledge systems. There are just 2 more comments in the chat. If you allow me to read, it's like, again, the same thing. It was a wonderful session and very thought-provoking session.